Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. Wang Donga nodded lightly and replied, yes. We've won. There was a complicated look in her beautiful eyes at this moment. She had always believed that she wasn't that much worse than Hui Yuhao in many different aspects. But after today's battle, she finally understood that Hui Yuhao was already a class above her in arrangement and delegation, without discussing fighting strength. He lived up to his reputation as a proper control-type soul master. They were 6 against 4 in this group battle, but there was an enormous rift between their overall prowess. All 4 of their opponents were evil soul masters who were at least soul emperors, and their opponents also had Yang Feng, who possessed a formidable bone dragon martial soul, and who was also a soul sage. Every single one of them possessed the strength to challenge someone one rank above them. They had managed to defeat their opponents in the end despite these circumstances. These evil soul masters had had a long and bright, or dark, future ahead of them, but every single one of them perished at their hands. How incredible was that? Hui Yuhao seemed to have been in control from the moment Bei fought his first duel to the moment when they concluded the group battle. Every time they were in a dire circumstance, or when they were about to be beaten back, Hui Yuhao would flip another one of his trump cards, so that they could turn the tables back around. This had happened again and again all the way until the last moment, when they had eliminated their opponents with an all-out attack and eventually clinched the win. Wang Donga only had pride in her eyes, as she hugged and supported Hui Yuhao. "Thysis, my man, my man." Hui Yuhao closed his eyes once more as he leaned against Wang Donga's body and took in her warmth and fragrance. His heart was surging like a volcanic eruption, and he felt as if his spiritual power was sublimating once more in this moment. There was a mystical feeling bouncing about at the bottom of his heart. He didn't know that Wang Donga was feeling proud of him. The entire battle played out rapidly over and over again in his head. The first merit belonged to Bei in today's victory. He was heinously wounded to the brink of death, which was the price he had paid for taking care of 2 evil soul masters, and reaching out to Tang San, who had been controlled and brainwashed by the evil soul masters. Judging from Tang San's reaction, Bei's words had been successful. At the very least, Tang San had reacted, and her emotions had begun to change because of his words. This proved that the Holy Ghost Church's hold over Tang San wasn't complete, and this meant Bei had forged a path for them to bring Tang San back into the fold in the future. The group fight came afterwards. All 4 of the evil soul masters they had faced were very powerful, so he had chosen Gu as their point of entry when the battle first begun. This choice was exceptionally important, because they would only have the confidence to eliminate their weakest opponent within a short period of time, by ganging up on him to weaken their adversary's overall strength. Shu Sanqi's contribution was the most substantial one to that end. He had dived deep behind enemy lines so that he could create an opportunity for his teammates, before transporting him and Wang Donga so that the group battle could officially commence. Hui Yuhao had delegated his companions' abilities one by one. Xiao Xiao had sealed their second strongest opponent, the Skeleton King, so that they could shave their opponent's strength from 3 to 2 people, and the battle could be simplified even further. However, he hadn't expected Yang Feng to be so powerful, and he had to reveal one trump card after another to achieve victory in the end. The Snowless Glacier used together with his ice explosion was one of his strongest moves. This combination was so formidable that he had astonished the Dragon Emperor Doluo when he used it against him back then. Hui Yuhao used the same move against Lu Gingging, the Abomination, and this had been imperative to their battle. It seemed as if defeating Yang Feng in the end was part of his plan, but he had borne a heavy burden to do so. He had revealed 5 different trump cards to finally take down Yang Feng. Hui Yuhao had basically possessed his body-soul's second awakening ever since he returned from the Icefire Yin-Yang well in the Setting Sun Forest, but he had always kept it hidden. This was the first trump card that he had used against Yang Feng. His second trump card was his Light of Destiny and his Destiny Gaze. Hui Yuhao rarely used this ability, and it seemed like something that didn't possess any offensive or defensive capabilities on the surface, but Hui Yuhao knew that this ability could turn the tides in battle. This ability focused on lowering his opponent's luck and increasing his own. If he hadn't used his destiny gaze, dealing with Yang Feng's assault afterwards and using the rest of his trump cards wouldn't have been so smooth. The spiritual shock that was used with his Eye of Destiny was so effective because of his destiny gaze. His third trump card that came afterwards was even more important. His next trump card was his purplish golden projection. Hui Yuhao only went through with this attempt after making brave and non-conservative judgments. Furthermore, this was their first time using this, and it could possibly be their last. This was the most important trump card that had enabled them to defeat Yang Feng in the end. He hadn't created any new martial soul fusion skills with Wang Di Noga when the two golden projections merged together. The reason was because it wasn't just the two of them fusing together, there was someone else. Yes, there was a third person besides the two of them. The third person was Wang Chioa. This was similar to how he had discreetly helped Wang Chioa against her powerful opponents. This time, Wang Chioa was the one who had lent them a hand, and he had used imitation to accomplish this feat. Wang Chioa had actually been beside them since the moment they got on the competition stage. She had been with them all the way, until the entire round was over. Hui Yuhao had communicated with Wang Donga and Wang Chioa through his spiritual detection, at the most crucial moment, and he went through with something that was unprecedented for them. His Eye of Destiny had been evolving continuously as he became stronger. This was especially so when Hui Yuhao obtained his body-soul's second awakening, which had evolved his Eye of Destiny to an exceptionally powerful level and given him even stronger abilities. The ability he'd used today was called Fate Conversion. Fate Conversion allowed him to lower his opponent's luck and raise his at the same time. Hui Yuhao could absorb his opponent's luck while lowering it to further boost his own at the same time. Hui Yuhao had tried something new under such circumstances, a 3-in-1 martial soul fusion skill. Hui Yuhao, Wang Donga, and Wang Chioa were all capable of undergoing martial soul fusions. Furthermore, their fusion had an almost 100% compatibility. Therefore, he made a courageous guess. If one straight line was parallel to two other lines at the same time, then the other two lines would still be parallel to each other. In other words, all three straight lines would be parallel to one another. Since I can fuse with either one of them, why can't the three of us fuse together? Fusion skills had always been a process of sublimating one's abilities. There had been more than one instance of 3-in-1 martial soul fusion skills in the history of Soul Masters. This had happened before within Shrek Academy. 10,000 years ago, Shrek Academy's forefathers Dean Flanders, Yu Xiaogang, and Liu Erlong used a 3-in-1 fusion skill to summon the formidable golden holy dragon. Yu Xiaogang was the dragon god Doluo, Mu Yen, and Bei Bei's mutated blue lightning tyrant dragon's ancestor. If the people who came before me could do that, can I do the same with my increased luck? Hui Yuhao only took a few seconds to contemplate this question. Yang Feng was simply too powerful, far more so than he had initially expected. Hui Yuhao had prepared other trump cards against him, but he had realized in that moment that the trump cards that he had prepared beforehand didn't seem like they would be enough. How did Yang Feng accidentally kill Lu Gingging? That was Hui Yuhao's fourth trump card, Spiritual Interference Domain. Yes, it was a domain. Spiritual interference wasn't as valuable before, but it was a pity to let it go. Hui Yuhao's spiritual power had gotten stronger as he had, and that allowed his spiritual interference to be used together with his imitation. This gave rise to his spiritual interference domain. Hui Yuhao could change someone's vision and senses within a certain range with spiritual interference and imitation, so that his opponent would be enmeshed in his confusion and deceit. Yang Feng was extremely powerful, but he was still tricked into thinking that Lu Gingging was his enemy, and he ended up lashing out and killing his own teammate. It was clear how powerful this ability was. Hui Yuhao hadn't put everything he had into this domain, because he had to leave something for his 3-in-1 fusion skill. Otherwise, with his current abilities and his body-soul's second awakening, he would still be able to use his spiritual interference domain to ensure that his entire team could return safely. Reality proved that Hui Yuhao's courageous hypothesis worked. Under immense pressure from their enemies, Wang Donga and Wang Chua set aside their differences and opinions so that all three of them could align themselves together. They managed to complete their unrivaled and magnificent fusion under Hui Yuhao's forceful guidance. Hui Yuhao himself didn't expect that their fusion would be so different after it had been completed. They were set for victory once he showed his fourth trump card. The heavy downpour was enormously beneficial for Hui Yuhao, who possessed ultimate ice. His strength climbed exponentially under such circumstances. Their 3-in-1 fusion skill also raised his control over ice to another level. Wang Donga's element of light and her clear sky hammer, Wang Chua's strength, and Hui Yuhao's spiritual power and ultimate ice were all thrown into the same pot. How powerful was that? Hui Yuhao thought of an appropriate name in an instant. Hui Yuhao was the one controlling this 3-in-1 fusion skill, so he hadn't channeled his own abilities into it. Instead, he drew upon Wang Donga and Wang Chua's abilities. He called it the purple and gold draconic butterfly transformation. This was a fusion skill superior, even to the solitary dance amidst the frost, raiment of light. Hui Yuhao finally revealed his last trump card, when they were using the purple golden butterfly dragon transformation. This trump card was also the most important reason why he was confident that they could clinch this victory through the group battle. Not long before this, Hui Yuhao had realized something very fortunate had happened to him. The Ice Empress had awoken. The Ice Empress had been in hibernation, because she had expended too much of her power when she fused with the Snow Empress back then, but now she was finally awake. The Ice Empress waking up had finally allowed Hui Yuhao to master his fourth soul ring's last ability, which came about after his second martial soul, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, merged with the Snow Empress spirit. His second martial soul was the Ice Empress, but 4 of his 5 soul rings originated from the Snow Empress spirit. The 3 skills that had been bestowed upon him were the Unparalleled Chill, Empress Sword, the Snowless Glacier, and the Snowy Dance of the Brilliant Sun. Of the 3 powerful soul skills, the Snowy Dance of the Brilliant Sun fused with the domain of perpetual ice that came with Hui Yuhao's Ice Empress skeleton, and that formed his first domain, the Snowy Dance of Ultimate Ice. However, the Snowy Dance of Perpetual Ice didn't distinguish between friend and foe. Hui Yuhao's current physical state and his restricted movement made it hard for him to control it. This was the main reason why he hadn't used it in the tournament's previous rounds. Hui Yuhao had never used his 5th and last soul ring before, the same orange-golden soul ring that came from the Ice Empress. Before this, he had no idea what he had to do to activate his 5th soul ring. But not too long ago, the Ice Empress woke up, because Hui Yuhao had continually absorbed the ultimate ice origin energy of heaven and earth, and only then did Hui Yuhao learn that the Snow Empress last soul skill had to be fused with the Ice Empress powers before it could be used. This was a powerful soul skill that surpassed even his Empress Chill. Pride of the Ice and Snow Empresses. Hui Yuhao couldn't use this mighty soul skill with his current soul power, and he could only barely make it work when he was using the Raiment of Light with Wang Donga. But after completing the purple golden butterfly dragon transformation, he managed to unleash Pride of the Ice and Snow Empresses, and he was even able to maximize its power at their current cultivation ranks. He had even completely eradicated Yang Feng's incredibly tough skeletal dragon true body. Even Wang Donga was astonished at the number of trump cards that he had. Hui Yuhao was in total control of their victory in the group battle. Of course, Wang Chua was discreetly helping them from the shadows. The Tang sect had won. They defeated the Holy Ghost sect, which had possessed 7 formidable evil soul masters. Furthermore, 6 of the Holy Ghost sect's elite youngsters were killed, with the lone exception of Tang Ya. This was undoubtedly a huge blow for the Holy Ghost Church, which was backing the Holy Ghost sect. The skeletal dragon was gone, so Jiang Nan Nan broke out of her prison. The Skeleton King was dead, and so Xiao Xiao was back on the competition stage once more. With Wang Donga's support, Hui Yuhao used his control over ice to melt the ice on Hikaitu and Shusanshi's bodies. Every single one of them was exhausted and spent from everything they had given in this match. However, their eyes were sparkling as they got back together on the competition stage, and only pride could be seen in their eyes. This was a pride and arrogance that belonged to the Tang sect and Shrek Academy at the same time. The 6 of them placed their hands together in mid-air. Hui Yu Hao raised his head towards the sky and hollered, "Tang sect! Tang sect! Tang sect! Tang sect!" They shouted as loudly as they could. Yes, this glory belonged to the Tang sect. They had defeated evil, and justice and righteousness were always bound to win. In this moment, the competition stage and the entire Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament belonged to the Tang sect. The audience was shaken by the Tang sect's aura and the atmosphere they were creating, and some people unwittingly began to chant along with the Tang sect's voices, to the point where the organizing committee finally recovered from their astonishment and immediately escorted the Tang sect's team off the competition stage. But the audience was reluctant to leave, and the spectacular and dazzling scenes replayed again and again in their minds. The Tang sect's name had been deeply imprinted in their minds. It was from this moment that the Tang sect's reputation resonated across the entire continent. Inside the resting area, the scorpion tiger Doluo worked hard on Tang Ya. Her eyes had become cold and icy once more, but when she heard the Tang sect's torrential exclamations, the confusion and vacancy in her eyes seemed to crack a little more, and another dash of clarity filled the gap. A thoughtful look flickered once in her eyes, as she watched the people on the competition stage. The mysterious black-robed lady sitting beside her raised her head slightly, and a thick scorching aura emanated faintly from her body. This thickness was filled with limitless hostility and murderous intent. An elderly man smiled faintly in the spectators' grandstand as he muttered under his breath, "You had foresight, Elder Mu. He is the ultimate soldier that the Shrek Academy has produced, and has finally grown up after the ordeal that he went through the last time. When he can get back up on his feet, Shrek Academy will possess a true ultimate soldier who belongs to us." Nana stayed behind to take care of Bei Bei, but Ji Juechen, Jing Ziyan, and Nan Qiuqiu raced onto the competition stage. Ji Juechen carried Xu Sanxia off, while Jing Ziyan and Nan Qiuqiu helped an exhausted and fatigued Wang Donga take care of Hui Yu Hao, who was back in his wheelchair. "You guys are so fantastic." Nan Qiuqiu embraced Wang Donga and pecked her on her soft and tender lips. Wang Donga was a little taken aback, and her beautiful pale cheeks tinged with redness. "Qiuqiu," Wang Donga's voice sounded a little blaming and displeased. Nan Qiuqiu couldn't detect Wang Donga's embarrassment and shyness. She continued elatedly, "The Tang sect is the best. The Tang sect is the best. We won, we won. Ha ha, if only I had been able to fight, too." Jing Ziyan seemed a little despondent. "If only I had been born a few years earlier." Ji Juechen stared at Hui Yu Hao solemnly and muttered, "What state were you in during that transformation? I want to try fighting against that." Hui Yu Hao rolled his eyes and said, "You'll have your chance in the future. However, you have to make sure that you're stronger than Yang Feng before that. Are you feeling very good about yourselves?" An old and deep voice boomed angrily, interrupting them like a volcanic eruption. Everyone turned around to look. The scorpion tiger Doluo, Zhong Peng, was staring at them insidiously. There was only ferocity and savagery in his eyes. Among the Holy Ghost sect's participating members in this competition, the Skeleton King, Tang Dai, was the scorpion tiger Doluo's personal disciple. The purple golden butterfly dragon transformation had defeated and killed the bone dragon as well, and it didn't help that the Holy Ghost Church had put in so much effort to nurture this group of young evil soul masters. The Holy Ghost Church had sustained heavy losses even though they still had Tang Ya, and this blow was so heavy that the mysterious imperial tutor almost couldn't hold himself back, let alone Zhong Peng. So what if we're feeling good about ourselves? Newborn calves were not afraid of tigers, and Nan Qiuqiu had that classic personality. She rebuked Zhong Peng's ice-cold accusation, and she didn't show any weakness at all. Zhong Peng's eyes closed into slits as he nodded and said, "Good. Good, good. Let's go." He suppressed the impulse to explode as he spoke, and he took Tang Ya, the mysterious girl in black, and the reserve evil soul masters, and they left quickly. The gloomy and eerie atmosphere in the resting lounge vanished once they disappeared, and there was a very refreshing feeling in its place. The rainstorm was gone, and the thick dark clouds in the sky separated as enchanting sunlight peeked from between them and shone on the competition stage, and onto the audience in the resting area. The radiant golden color, and the unique warmth that only sunlight possessed put a charming smile on many people's faces. Wang Chua walked over to Hui Yuhao and lowered her voice as she spoke. "I've returned what I owed you. We'll meet again in the finals." Hui Yuhao smiled and said, "Thank you, Chua." Wang Chua felt her heart skip a beat as she met his sincere gaze, but she swiftly turned around and waved as she led Shrek Academy's team away. Dai Huabin, Wu Feng, Zhu Lu and the others seemed a little lost and vacant when they passed Hui Yuhao, because they were clear that they had no chance of catching up with this fellow in a wheelchair, not even in the future. The rivalry and animosity between them seemed to disappear after today's match. Hui Yuhao's lips moved as he mouthed something to Wang Chua soundlessly. Wang Chua paused for a moment as she was walking forward, before she rapidly departed. Hui Yuhao shut his eyes. He was quite exhausted, but there was a smile at the corner of his mouth. The end of this round opened the curtains for another great battle. This was just the beginning. The Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament was nearing its end as it reached this stage. The semifinals were over, and the Tang sect and Shrek Academy had successfully defeated their opponents to reach the finals. For some people, it didn't matter which team emerged victorious in the end. The fight that seemed like some kind of family infighting would take place the following day. Everyone returned to their respective rooms back at the hotel to rest, and Hui Yuhao and Wang Donga retired to their own room. There was no need to hide anything anymore, and the two of them placed their palms together as they channeled their Haodong power and regenerated their soul power. But there was something dark and shadowy riling up in Radiant City. Radiant City's Dinghu Main Street was located in a residential area lined with short houses near the western suburbs. It was called a main street, but it was just a small path that couldn't be considered wide or spacious. The western suburbs had always been the place where the citizens in the lowest strata of society lived. There were hardly any tall buildings or skyscrapers in the area, only large patches of short houses. There were enormous stone mountains further to the west, which formed the Sun-Moon Mountain Range. There was a small restaurant on Dinghu Main Street. It couldn't have had much more than 1,000 feet of floor space. There were 4 or 5 tables laid out inside. This restaurant could not be considered splendid or magnificent. Describing it as simple and plain was already a compliment. This place served only the simplest meals. The sky had gone dark at this point, but this was Radiant City's busiest and most bustling time. This was especially true due to the exceptionally thrilling semifinals that everybody was talking about. Dinghu Main Street's little restaurant was broken down and decrepit, but every single seat was occupied, and there were even 2 extra tables set up near the entrance. There were 3 people seated at the farthest table inside the restaurant. They seemed a little strange, as they had conical bamboo hats over their heads and veils draped over their faces. It was difficult to make out their physical appearances, and even their figures were hidden beneath wide, oversized robes. The person seated at the innermost corner said, "I didn't expect this to happen." She had a bright and crisp voice, but she wasn't loud. Her voice had a limpid and sweet-sounding quality. Another woman's voice rang out to her right. Her charming and enchanting voice was filled with lament as she said, "Yes. Who would have thought that the Tang sect could defeat the Holy Ghost sect? Sister Zhong, do you know what ability they used at the end?" The voice that belonged to the leftmost girl had a special feminine quality. She answered, "I'm not sure either. However, it's true that everyone from the Tang sect can be considered the most elite and outstanding individuals from the Academy's younger generation." The innermost girl said, "Given enough time, they will definitely become Shrek Academy's mainstays and cornerstones. But I don't understand, why didn't they represent Shrek Academy in this tournament? If they had Wang Chua, they would have had an easier time claiming the championship." The innermost lady was the Star Luo Empire's princess, Shu Jojo, while the girl sitting on the right was the Heavenly Soul Empire's princess, Wei Na. The girl on the left was Shrek Academy's eldest senior sister, Zhong Lishuan. Who would have expected that these 3 ladies who represented 3 different powers would come together in such a small and dilapidated restaurant? But it was easier to avoid discovery in a place like this. Zhong Lishuan smiled casually and said, "They have their own reasons. Our academy isn't a sect after all, and we won't hold them back. Shujojo didn't continue harping on the issue, even though she was shaken and dumbfounded when the Tang sect eradicated the Holy Ghost sect's entire team, without losing a single team member of their own. No matter what, Shrek's 7 monsters made up the Tang sect's core, and even though Shujojo and Wei Na looked up to them, they still weren't those top-tier powerful individuals. The 2 princesses had many more responsibilities than just the tournament. Shujojo lowered her voice and said, "How are things looking on your side, Sister Zhong?" Zhong Lishuan naturally knew what she was trying to say. She tilted her head and said, "I've discussed it with our elders, and we have decided to participate in your operation." Both Shujojo and Wei Na trembled at the same time as they heard this. There was nothing more exciting than this piece of news for either of them. "All right. Our chances are so much better with your aid." Shujojo planted her hands on the table excitedly. Even though she deliberately kept her voice down, the other 2 girls could still hear the exhilaration in her voice. Wei Na nodded as well and said, "That's great. We have to unite in the face of a great enemy, and I hope this will serve as a beneficial beginning. The Sun Moon Empire isn't impregnable, no matter how strong they are. The Heavenly Soul Empire and the Star Luo Empire felt a lot more urgency in dealing with the Sun Moon Empire, at least compared to Shrek Academy. These 2 empires would have to take the vanguard if the Sun Moon Empire launched an invasion." Zhong Lishuan whispered, "All right, let's talk about the details. Time is of the essence, and we will go back to making the necessary arrangements after our discussion. You don't have to hide the details of our operation anymore." Shujojo nodded at once. She harbored no suspicions about Zhong Lishuan. Given Shrek Academy's status on the continent, they wouldn't leak details about the operation even if they weren't participating. Furthermore, Shrek Academy had already declared that they would participate, and they wouldn't go back on their word. This was the reputation and trust that Shrek Academy had accumulated and built up over the years. Both empires also knew about Zhong Lishuan's entry into the Sea God's Pavilion. Her presence was enough to represent the entire academy. The 3 women's voices faded into silence, and only their mouths shifted up and down behind their veils. "How are things going?" Shu Tianran leaned against a soft couch. His eyes were closed into slits, but they were sparkling with emotion as he stared at a man completely covered in black kneeling not far from the couch. "Your Highness, the arrangements have been made. Soldiers have been delegated in the north, south, and east. Every single region is anchored by Class 9 Soul Engineers, and every spot has more than 5 stationary Soul Cannon shells. They should know about our setup due to our deliberate leaks." Shu Tianran laughed grimly and said, "How about the West? How are preparations going?" The man in black said, "We are prepared in the West as well. Those people from before are still at the Western Front, and we have given them one last chance." Shu Tianran nodded and said, "Very well done. Continue making preparations, and make sure that everyone is on the highest alert and vigilance over the next 2 days, so that we can be prepared for every possibility. You may leave." "Yes, Your Highness," the man in black acknowledged respectfully. He stood up and quickly vanished into the darkness. A thoughtful look appeared on Shu Tianran's face. "I hope they make the right choice, and that they choose the Western path. We won't have to expend so much effort and energy that way." With that, his body suddenly drifted up from the soft couch he was on, and he floated over to his wheelchair without releasing his martial soul. He pushed forward with his hands through his sleeves, and his wheelchair began sliding out. The epic fight between the Tang sect and the Holy Ghost sect made the city's atmosphere a lot warmer and more enthusiastic. Everything settled down overnight, and Radiant City seemed exceptionally calm and quiet when dawn broke the next day. It felt as if the entire city was still in a deep slumber, and it wasn't about to wake up for a long time. Hui Yuhao was up early in the morning. He had astonishing regenerative abilities, and he also had the Haodong power that he shared with Wang Donga. He felt as if he had been revived after the previous night's rest. He was full of energy and vitality this morning. Wang Donga pushed his wheelchair into Bei Bei's room after they had breakfast. Wang Donga knocked twice on the door, with no response. She was just about to use the room key that Bei Bei had given Hu Yuhao. The door opened from the inside. Zhong Lishuan was the one who opened the door. Her eyes seemed red and swollen, as if she had just been crying. "Ah, hello, eldest senior sister. Why don't we come back later?" Hu Yuhao looked a little awkwardly at Zhong Lishuan. Zhong Lishuan frowned and said, "Come in. I've just finished delivering breakfast to Bei Bei and tending to his wounds." She stepped aside and let them in. Wang Donger's gaze was a little strange, as she pushed Hu Yuhao into Bei Bei's room. There was a thick medicinal smell in the room. Nobody trusted the Sun Moon Empire to send someone to heal Bei Bei's wounds. Instead, Shrek Academy sent a healing-type soul master to complete this task. Bei Bei's face was very pale as he lay in bed. This was the second time he had sustained severe injuries since coming to Radiant City. He had suffered internal injuries last time, and he was recovering from heavy external injuries this time. However, Bei Bei's eyes seemed as bright as ever. His wounds were severe, but his condition had stabilized after treatment. Powerful soul masters had bodies far stronger and tougher than normal people, and external wounds healed far quicker than internal ones. "I'm going to go back. We will follow the plan." Zhong Lishuan seemed to revert to the majestic and dignified eldest senior sister. She nodded at Bei Bei, then at Hu Yuhao and Wang Donger, before she turned to leave. She even closed the door behind her. Wang Donger pushed Hu Yuhao over to Bei Bei's bedside. Hu Yuhao asked concernedly, "How are you feeling, eldest senior brother?" Bei Bei smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, I'm fine. My injuries are lighter than you think. Xiao Ya's blue-silver grass didn't shatter my bones, and it passed between my ribs. I managed to deliberately dislocate 4 of my ribs in the nick of time to avoid direct contact, and I also deliberately shifted my organs aside. My injuries seem bad, but they are simple external injuries. I feel a lot better after treatment, and my ribs and organs have returned to their original positions." Hu Yuhao's eyes lit up as he listened to Bei Bei's words. "My eldest senior brother is such a great strategist. I wonder how teacher Xiao Ya is doing," Hu Yuhao lamented. Bei Bei replied, "I carefully felt her spiritual undulations when we were together. I could feel that her spirit was obscured behind a layer of filth, and her personal consciousness had been completely silenced and locked away. Fortunately, her memories haven't been removed. The evil soul masters sealed her memories so that they could maintain her fighting will. They used their sinister abilities to gradually shift and change her personality, so that her memories from the past would slowly fade away. They didn't directly remove her memories, as doing so would affect her cultivation. Her circumstances could be much worse. I sustained injuries as a price so that I could trigger some kind of reaction from Xiao Ya. What happened afterwards proved that I was quite successful, and I think I've managed to break through a crack to Xiao Ya's silenced inner heart. Even though the evil soul masters sealed it up again right away, how can it be so easy to seal her away entirely?" A confident smile broke out across Bei Bei's face. Compared to before, he seemed as if he possessed extraordinary intelligence, and the resolve to face anything that came his way. Hu Yuhao felt a little fearful as he said exasperatedly, "Eldest senior brother, are you saying all this just to console us?" "Ahem," Bei Bei cleared his throat twice and said, "Why would I do that? I'm saying all this so that I can strengthen your confidence. Yesterday was so close. Who can match you in terms of secrets, depth, and hiding abilities? You really caught everyone's attention, and gained everyone's respect after yesterday's match. However, you have been placed at the heart of the struggle, where the wind and the waves are the fiercest. The Holy Ghost Church probably hates you to the core." Hu Yuhao smiled and answered, "Let them hate me, it's not like I can control their emotions anyway." "Eldest senior brother, did you arrange everything with eldest senior sister when she came by?" Bei Bei nodded and said, "Everything has been arranged. What an exciting and busy night we shall have. I wonder what will become of Radiant City tomorrow morning, when the finals are about to begin." Hu Yuhao said, "Since you've already enjoyed eldest senior sister's breakfast filled with love, we don't have to give you the food that we've brought for you. You should have a good rest. Donger and I will take our leave." Part 1 end here.